Hello and welcome to the Wealthy Trades Weekly Market Forecast. This is Tyson Clayton. Let's get started right away. Let's kind of recap what we had going on last week. Last week was another great week for Wealthy Trades. The market in general was up about 0.48, about a 0.5%. The S&P 500 and the S&P 500 for the month is actually putting in a really nice month. The whole sell in May and go away concept has kind of been thrown out the door over the last couple of years. And May, June, July, kind of into the summer has been really nice rally months, which historically really isn't the case, but most recently over the last couple of years has actually been the case. But anyway, the SPY for the month is up about 1.83%. So the overall market for long-term long portfolios, you should be doing well. But wealthytrades.com continues to outperform. Last week, the market was up, about 1% or so. We were up about 1.5% in the XLP. This week in KR, and this week, what we did was a pairs trade. We went long KR, which was in the XLP, and short SWN, which was in the energy sector. Overall, the trade that trade was up 1.99% in comparison to a market that was up only 0.48%. So again, outperformance is great. And for the month, as you should know, we are in the XLV. We'll continue to be in the XLV until the end of the month. So basically through this week, and the XLV itself is up 3.93%. And then the best stock in the healthcare sector that we've been long is in CAH, Cardinal Health, and that's up 3.26% in comparison to a market that's only up 1.83%. So again, phenomenal outperformance. That is the exact reason why you subscribe to wealthytrades.com, because you need to understand where the market's moving, what the best sectors are to go into, and then the best stocks to potentially go into. Which leads me to another thing that I'd like to mention. So I had a question from one of the subscribers about a specific stock, and I'm going to use the XLV as an example. The XLV, this is on a monthly basis. Okay, so I'm clicked on a monthly tab, and I'm looking at the XLV here. This is the best sector in the healthcare in the market for this month of May. So these stats, these monthly stats, all right, levels to win data is good for the entire month of May. So these closing open, high, low, and close numbers are updated each day. But the levels to win data, so all this data in here is good for the entire month of May. So you might look, the question was, well, how can the XLV be in an uptrend and the expected high for a month be at 73.62, but current price is at 74.98? That doesn't make any sense. And that wouldn't make any sense if these numbers updated each day. But remember, these numbers update at the beginning of each month. So this is a reflection showing that the XLV itself is trading well above the monthly expected high. The monthly expected high for May was only $73.62, and right now it's sitting at $74.98. So it's pretty substantially higher than what it normally trades as far as the levels to win data displays. In fact, typically when it trades above that level, that 73.62, it historically loses money. So I actually like selling calls at the 75 level right now. And I'm going to be going over that kind of call selling rotational strategy in that options class. But selling the $95 or $75 calls for this week, I think is going to be a really good play, even with the XLV itself sitting right at 75. So kind of the at the money calls, simply because the stats show that when it trades above the monthly levels, it doesn't have a tendency to trade much higher than that historically. So selling the at the money calls in the XLV might be the way to go. So I just wanted to highlight that real quick, but I do want to talk about what we're going to do for the week. For the week, we're going to be looking to do a pairs trade just like we did last week, okay? We did a pairs trade last week because the quality gauge was below 50%, and it's the same thing for this week. We are in a fairly aggressive uptrend, 73.5% of the stocks in the S&P 500 moving up, but the quality is 49%, so it's pretty close to over 50%, but not quite. So we're going to do a pairs trade. So we're going to go long in the healthcare sector, the XLV, and short and the XLE. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the stocks in the healthcare sector into my portfolio. All right, and I'm doing that by hitting the plus sign. And I'm going to move those over, and I'm going to find the best stock to go long in the healthcare sector on a weekly basis. And the way I do that is, again, click my portfolio, middle tab, and then I'm going to eliminate anything that doesn't make money on both sides, so on the levels to win. So I'm just going to click through these, and if I find one that doesn't make money, all right, so I'm clicked on a weekly, clicking through this. If I find one that doesn't make money, I'm going to eliminate it. So ANTM, as you can see, loses money when it hits the counter trend side. It loses money. So therefore, I'm going to eliminate that one. But let's just say that that was a stock that I was long. If I was long ANTM rolling into this week, I would put a stop at 161.35. ANTM is probably a great stock to go long. This information just gives me an idea of where should I put my stops or my targets. Well, in this case, I would put my stop in this stock at 161.35. But for me, I'm going to eliminate it because, again, it doesn't make money, and I want to only keep the stocks that make money on both sides. So now that I have it pared down, now I'm going to look for the stock that has the widest spread between the levels on levels. So we got 40 and 21. Well, that's not as good as 36 and 5. All right, I want the widest spread. 36 and 5 is better than 28 and 15. It's better than 26 and 13. 36 and 5 is better than 36 and 11. I'm looking right here. I want a wide spread, so it's better than that. It's better than that, and it's better than that. So UNH is the best stock to go long this week. It closed at 119.59. The expected high for this week is 121.92. The expected low is 117.26. It hits the high in an uptrend 61% of the time, and it has a tendency of closing above that quite often too. And this is a good place. That 121.92 is a good place to enter because historically, when it hits that, it tends to go higher. Also, if I go long UNH, entering an additional long position at 117.26 is a good way. It doesn't hit that level often, but when it does, it typically bounces off and closes higher. I know that because it makes money going long at that level. That's a phenomenal thing to know. It has a very wide spread. It has a 36% probability of closing above this level and only 5% probability of closing below this level. That's great. That's what I want to see. So UNH is going to be the stock that we go long for this week, but we're going to pair it, all right, because the quality's below 50%. We're going to pair it with a short position, all right, in the XLE, kind of like what we did last week when we went long KR, short SWN. SWN is probably going to be the stock that we go short again this week, but let's just make sure. Again, I'm going to use my same pair down technique. I'm going to eliminate anything that doesn't make money on both sides, all right? So if it loses money, I get rid of it. So as you can see, right here, it loses money, so it's gone. Loses money, gone. All right, so just getting rid of anything that loses money. And it looks like this pair down is gonna be real easy. The only one that makes money on both sides is SWN. So what do we know about SWN? It closed at 26 or 27.22. It's moving down, so the downtrend expected low is 26.05. The upside is 28.39. It hits the downside level 57.7% of the time and only 30% of the time on the upside. Has a high probability of closing below that, and shorting when it hits the 26.05, if it sells off and it hits that, that's a good place to short at because typically it ends up closing even lower. All right. Also, if it rallies up and hits 28.39, that's also a good area to short at because it typically hits, when it hits that, it typically closes below it. I know that because it has a levels to win profit. So what I'm going to do this week for the weekly trade is go long UNH at the open on on Tuesday, and go short SWN, hold all week long and close at the end of the week. That is going to be my weekly trade. My monthly trade, it's the same trade. We're long XLV, and CAH is the best trade. I'm going to hold that through this week, and then we'll probably update for next week. In fact, the XLV is probably going to be the best sector for rolling into June, and CAH could have a decent probability of being the best stock again. Let's look at what we're going to do for Tuesday for the day trades. Again, there's not a whole lot of people out there that day trade or that should day trade, but let's just talk about what we would do in our day trades. I'm going to bring all the stocks in the XLV because it's the best sector for the day trades to go into. We are going to do a pairs trade because the quality is below 50%. So I'm going to bring all those over. I'm going to do my pair down technique. I'm going to get rid of anything. On a daily basis, when I go over to my portfolio, I need to make sure I'm clicked. I'm going to eliminate anything that doesn't make money. All right, so Gilead, This is, by the way, one of my favorite stocks, fundamentally speaking, one of my favorite stocks, long-term investments, but for a day trade, not great. I'm going to get rid of it. All right, so UNH is our monthly trade, okay, or I'm sorry, our weekly trade. So that one's decent, maybe decent for a day trade too, but it's not going to be one that we're going to look at. So I'm just going to flip through these quick, eliminate anything that doesn't make money on both sides, find the best opportunity, and then we'll find an opportunity to pair that with. Okay, so now I'm going to look at the spread. So we got 28 and 11. That's not as good as 30 and 11. So we got 20 and so 30 and 11 is better than 25 and 9. 25 and 11 is not good as good as 30 and 11. 38 and 11 is better than 30 and 11. So BCR, and then yep, BCR is the best stock to go long for our day trade on Tuesday. Okay, so what do we know about it? We know that it closed at 171.95. Should move up to 173.10 or down to 170.80. It's got a high probability of hitting this upside, and when it does, it typically makes money. So going long at that level is a good level. If it sells off, it hits 170.80. That's a good level to go long at also. I'm going to go long at the beginning of the day on Tuesday and close at the end of the day. But I'm going to pair that with a short in the XLE. The reason why is because, again, on a daily basis, clicked on a day, the trend quality is below 40%. So I'm going to move these over into my portfolio. All right, we're going to look for the best pairing opportunity to go short. All right, so moving those over. I'll kind of recap this all in a minute here. So SWN, remember, is our weekly trade. So let me just flip through these real quick. I'm going to go through this kind of quick here. Eliminate anything that doesn't make money. It looks like, well, there's one that doesn't make money. APA. Okay, so RCR, so we got 38.9 is better than, well, wow, those are close here. So that's not as good. 36.7, that's really good, but that's not as good. That's not as good. That's not as good. All right, so we're going to pare this down here. So it's going to be between so 36.5 and 7.7, so 28.8 there, and then we got, I think this one's better here. We got 28.9, so Nove is slightly better, and then we've got pretty close here too, but I believe Nove 18.9. Yep. So Nove, N-O-V, is going to be our short. So for Tuesday's day trade, what we're going to do is we're going to go long BCR. All right. At the open, you can add at 173.10 or add at 170.80 long, close at the end of the day, and then pair that with a short position in NOV. You can also go short at 49.97 and short at 51.45. If we hit their close, both those at the end of the day. That's the day trade. Short NOV, long BCR, close at the end of the day. For the weekly trade, we're going long UNH, short SWN, close at the end of the week. And for the monthly trades, as you know, we're long in the XLV. The best stock is CAH. And the reason we didn't pair that with anything is because the trend quality is above 50%. That is the weekly forecast. Again, for last week, we had a phenomenal week. We were up on our pairs trade, long KR, short SWN, up almost 2% in comparison to the market, only up 0.5%. And our monthly trades are outperforming on a very aggressive basis. The XLV is up 3.93%. CAH is up 3.26%, and the market is only up 1.83%. So again, the market's having a great month, but not as good as the sector that Wealthy trades, all right, said to go into, which is the XLV. That's the reason why you got to subscribe to Wealthy Trades. It's $74 a month, and I'm telling you, the most important thing you can do is understand where the market's moving and the best places to allocate your money at this time. One of the easiest strategies I'm going to teach in that options course is the weekly and monthly rotational strategy. It's simple. What is the best sectors to go into? All right, go into those sectors, and you can sell covered calls in those sectors. And I'm gonna give a spreadsheet on showing how to sell covered calls, and that very simple strategy that outperforms the market. So go into the best sectors, sell covered calls at the expected highs. When the market goes into a downtrend, go into cash. It's about as simple of a strategy as you could possibly do, and it's phenomenal. And you get it, stay in front of the markets for $74 a month. On top of that, you get the free options course. You get my alerts, my earnings alerts. Last week we had a real good week in with our earnings. One of the days looked really looked like it was going to be not a great week at all, or great trade at all. But we had Vodafone and we had Walmart, and Vodafone looked like both of those looked like they were going to be really bad trades. But here's the thing: when an alert sent out for an undervalued call, remember it's an all or nothing trade. If it at first is a losing trade, I don't take the trade off because I was willing to risk the entire cost of the trade. Vodafone was a perfect example where you could have bought it for 60 cents. The next day, it was down. It was almost worth nothing. But then the next 2 or 3 days after that, it rallied up and it ended up closing and hitting the target. That was a good trade. And we had a couple other really good sold puts. I'm starting to call out some sold puts, which is a little bit of a different strategy than I've called out in the alerts before. But those are the things that I do on a personal basis. And I'm going to call out anything that I see, anything that I think gives myself an edge. I'm going to let you guys know and subscribers know what's going on. That's all I can do is tell you, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Here's the probabilities. Here's how I think I got the odds in my favor. And this is why I'm willing to do the trades. For next week, all right, this week coming up, there's going to be probably about 4 or 5 different earnings alerts that I'm going to be sending out, and like 4 of those are probably going to be short puts, and there's going to be 1 or 2 undervalued calls. It should be a great week, and this is going to be about the last week within this quarter, the last week. So then I'm going to do a recap of this quarter to show you guys how this quarter's earnings plays played out. I'm underperforming a little bit this quarter. It hasn't been going as good as I'd like, as good as historical quarters, but hopefully this is a great week, and I'll give an update on how we're doing. I'll kind of update on how the monthly trades are doing. Obviously, they're doing very well, and we will go from there. But email me if you have any questions. You can email me at info@wealthytrades.com. Do not let your subscription expire. Sign up today, $74 a month. Steal of a deal, free options course, alerts, staying in front of the markets, outperforming, and knowing when to go into the markets, where to go, and when to go into cash. Let me know if you have any questions. Email me, info@wealthytrades.com.